Thank you, Matt. Blair?
Thanks. My name is Blair Bobier. I work with the political reform program of the New America Foundation. The New America Foundation is a nonprofit, nonpartisan policy institute. We have offices in California and in D.C. and work on a wide range of subject areas. We work in areas such as healthcare, fiscal policy, asset building for low-income folks, foreign policy, and the program I work with is the political reform program. Essentially, the aim of our program is to see that the government of California looks like the people of California. And if you look at the government now and the people in California, you can see that there's a disconnect. So we look at a number of different measures that would level the playing field and encourage more people to become involved in the political process from the very beginning, voter registration, all the way up to voting in elections. So let's keep in mind some things, and that is that the United States has one of the lowest voter participation rates of any civilized democracy, and probably lower than the uncivilized ones as well. Not really sure what that means. So we have very few people voting. We have low registration rates. We have all sorts of problems with our elections where private money basically dominates our public elections. We have instances where a number of people are elected to office with a minority of the vote. A number of presidential elections were won by candidates who had less than a majority of the vote. 3 of the 4 last gubernatorial elections were won by candidates who had less than a majority of the vote. So we look at a number of different solutions to address these problems. Solutions such as ranked choice voting, which is used here in San Francisco to elect the city offices and the supervisors. We look at proportional representation, which is how most of the democracies in the world elect their legislatures. We look at public financing, and we look at ways of expanding voter registration. In fact, I'm happy to announce that one of our bills on voter registration was just signed into law by the governor. That's AB 30. That's going to set the voter registration age in California uniformly at 17. Under the previous law, you could register to vote only if you were going to be 18 by the next election, and that created a lot of confusion and inefficient implementation of voter registration laws. So I think we have to ask ourselves, if we give the legislature new rules and new tools, is that going to be enough? Is that really going to get us the government that we want and that we deserve? Some other things to keep in mind and to keep things in perspective. We've heard over and over about California being one of the largest economies in the world. Well, I think we have to stop thinking about California just as a state. Wyoming's a state. Montana's a state. Delaware's a state. When you have 38 million people in an incredibly diverse setting, sprawling geographically over a good chunk of the North American continent, you really have to think of this as a nation state. Our population is roughly equivalent to Canada's, to Poland, to Argentina. We're much more populous than, say, Australia or Greece or Portugal. And we have to look at ways where the governance actually matches what we have in terms of population and diversity. So I think we can go into some of these solutions and proposals a little further on in the conversation. One of our roles in this Constitutional Convention discussion has been to flesh out some of the details, in particular how the delegates will be chosen. We jumped on this bandwagon in large part because we've been pushing something called citizen assemblies. And citizen assemblies are gatherings of citizens that have convened in places like British Columbia, Ontario, in Europe, and versions of citizen assemblies have been used in the United States, and this is where we convene ordinary citizens to take charge of the future. And that's one of the proposals we'll be discussing here today as well. Thank you.